Today we are going to see the remaining topics of ranks and indices. Only 3 to 4 topics were remaining, so this will be a really very small lecture. Our first report is a State of Food Security and Nutrition in the World 2020 report. This report is released jointly by your Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. Then there is some organization IFAD, then your UNICEF, WFP and WHO. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 organizations are collaborating together and they release a State of Food Security and Nutrition in the World report. It is an annual report, okay? Annual report, it comes every year. So Food and Agriculture Organization, you know, this is part of United Nations, already explained a lot of time. UNICEF also you know, WHO also you know, all of these things were explained previously. But what about these two organizations, IFAD and WFP? We will see. IFAD is International Fund for Agricultural Development. International Fund for Agricultural Development is an international financial institution. Okay, this is a financial institution, and also at the same time, it is a specialized agency of United Nations, and it will work to address poverty and hunger in the rural areas of the developing countries. So it will finance some projects which will deal with poverty and hunger reduction in rural areas of developing countries. A specialty is that it is the only multilateral development organization that focuses solely on rural economies and food security, solely. So that is its importance. Second is your World Food Program, WFP, that is World Food Program. It is the food assistance branch of the United Nations, and it is world's largest humanitarian organization addressing hunger and promoting food security. So this is not solely focusing on the rural areas, right? The previous one, IFAD, was solely focusing on the rural areas. If you want to remember the full name, International Fund for Agricultural Development, and this is World Food Program, WFP. This organization is also part of UNDG, United Nations Development Group. I told you this is working towards sustainable development, and many of the United Nations bodies which are working for sustainable development are part of United Nations Development Group. So World Food Program is also part of UNDG, not UNDP, okay? United Nations Development Group. This is not one unique group. This is a consortium of United Nations groups working towards sustainable development goals. So now again back to the topic, a State of Food Security and Nutrition in the World annual flagship program released jointly by FAO, IFAD, UNICEF, WFP and WHO. These 5 organizations have released it. What do we see in this report is that what progress we have made towards ending hunger, achieving food security and improving nutrition in the world, and it will provide an in-depth analysis of what are the key challenges in achieving these goals in the context of 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. So for achievement of sustainable development goals, you have to look upon the food security of the people, nutrition level of the people and other hunger related issues. This report will not address only the government, it will address the policymakers, fine government, international organizations also, academic institutions also, and it will ask them to do some research, do some work for the hunger reduction, and general public is also audience of this report. So this report becomes very important. This is not only for the policymakers, all international organizations related to these goals, academic institutions and general public, all are addressed by this report. This report is very special that it will not see many of the historical data. This will provide you the most recent and authoritative estimates of the extent of hunger, food security and malnutrition. So what are the findings of the report? Currently, it estimates that 690 million people in the world are hungry. And that will be 8.9% of the world population. Almost 9% of the world population is hungry, or you can say 690 million people of the world population are hungry, up by 10 million people in 1 year. From previous report, we have 10 million extra people having hunger. That is a very, negative finding, okay? And by nearly 60 million in 5 years. So hunger is increasing, right? Hunger is increasing. That's a very sad fact. Also, there is severe food insecurity. In that severe food insecurity, also number of people having severe food insecurity is rising. This severe food insecurity and hunger both are used for approximation of hunger level. At both these levels, the hunger and severe food insecurity both are rising, and considering the total affected by moderate or severe food insecurity, an estimated 2 billion people in the world did not have regular access to safe, nutritious and sufficient food in 2019. So the report came in 2020, the data is of 2019. Next thing, world is not on track of. The finding will relate to 2030 agenda development, sustainable development achievement or not. So the report is saying that no, we are not on the right track to achieve zero hunger by 2030. If this recent trend continues according to this graph, in fact the number of people affected by hunger would surpass 840 million by 2030. So instead of zero hunger, you are increasing hunger in this world. This is the finding of the report. Also, because the report was released in COVID-19 pandemic context, so it has estimated that extra 83 to 132 million people will be added under the undernourished category in the world by 2020, and it depends on the economic growth scenario. For example, some countries are fighting to revive, some countries are striving to revive, and some countries are doing far better. So it will depend country to the country, but overall because of COVID-19 pandemic, there will be more undernourishment, more hunger in the world. So a very important data for the world in 2019, if you see, the 21.3% of children under 5 years of age were stunted. 21.3% children under the 5-year age were stunted. What about wasted category? 6.9% children under the 5 age were wasted, and 5.6% were overweight. You should know the difference between a stunting and wasting. A stunting or low height for age. For a particular age, if you have low height, that is called a stunting, right? And wasting or low weight for a height. When you are saying the stunting, you will see the age of the child and say that okay, height is not good. Low height for age, that is a stunting. But when you talk about wasting is low weight for height. Height is okay, but your weight is low, that is wasting. Okay. And wasting is a strong predictor of mortality. A child can be stunted, that is fine, but wasting is a sign of mortality among children under 5, that is more precarious situation, wasting. So this is the difference between a stunting and wasting. And overweight you know already. Next report is Sustainable Ocean Economy for 2050 report. Now the findings of this report are not very important because they are suggestive in nature. UPSC will never ask a question. But you should know that Sustainable Ocean Economy for 2050 report, this report came, and which organization has released this report, and is India part of this? This is commissioned by one high level panel for a sustainable ocean economy. And this high level panel for sustainable ocean economy is an initiative of 14 world leaders or 14 countries of the world. And this is the world's first attempt to assess the cost benefit ratio of making any development. So it will assess that if you are doing this development, then how much will be the damage for ocean, and if you are doing this development, then how much will be the ocean preservation, so that you can do sustainable development, right? So you need to do sustainable development and take into account the health of the ocean. So ocean based investment and sustainable cost benefit ratio will be seen over investment over a period of 30 period will be seen in this report. The report focuses on 4 interventions. 4 interventions you can do in the sustainable development regarding ocean. One is conserving and restoring mangrove habitats. Very important ecology in the ocean, near the coast area, mangrove. A scaling up offshore wind production, right? Scaling up offshore wind production. You can do development, but it will not destroy environment. A little bit destruction can happen obviously during the if you are making is wind mill in ocean, obviously it will take some space, but still the development will be good because it is a renewable energy. Decarbonizing the international shipping sector. If you are using the carbon efficient fuel in shipping sector, then your development will also happen, and your preservation of the ocean will also happen, and that will mean sustainable development in the future. And the 4th intervention is increasing the production of sustainably sourced ocean based proteins, right? If you are depending on the oceanic proteins, that will be good because you will be conserving more species. Japan is doing this. Japan is depending on so many algae for proteins. So this is an initiative of 14 serving world leaders, and they try to build momentum towards sustainable ocean economy. Now important thing is that this organization is supported by this high level panel for sustainable ocean economy, supported by United Nations Secretary General's special envoy for the ocean. So UN Secretary General is involved through his special envoy for the ocean. and it was established in 2018 only. Very recent panel. So very recent panel. So India is not a member. India will think and decide whether we want to work with them or not. This organization, or not organization, high level panel works not only with the government. It works with government, business, financial institutions, science community and civil society, everyone. This is all about this Sustainable Ocean Economy 2050 report by High Level Panel for a Sustainable Economy related to UN Secretary General's Special Envoy for the Ocean. 14 serving world leaders are there, and it was created in 2018. India is not a member of this. This is all you should remember. Now this report is very important. India's second voluntary national review. What is this voluntary national review? See, United Nations wants every country to give some data about their achievements towards sustainable development goals, monitoring kind of, that how much you are going towards sustainable development goal. So every country is free to do some voluntary submission. India was also free. So India has given its second voluntary national review, that how much we are doing towards achievement of sustainable development goal. And the first one was given in 2017. The second one is given in 2020. Niti Aayog presented this. Why? Niti Aayog is the nodal agency for sustainable development program implementation in India. That means working towards sustainable goal achievement, and it works with Ministry of Statistics and program implementation regarding sustainable goal achievement. Coordinating agency is Niti Aayog. So Niti Aayog presented this report. This report is India's second voluntary national review at United Nations High Level Political Forum. It was presented in United Nations High Level Political Forum on Sustainable Development 2020. So the report came in 2020, but the sustainable developments are related to 2030. This High Level Political Forum is what? It is the foremost international platform for follow-up and review of progress on the sustainable development goals. So High Level Political Forum is created specifically for monitoring and follow-up. Follow-up, that means we decided in this meeting that we will do sustainable development goals achievement and we will do this and that. But now we need to do follow-up. Ask the countries how much we have done. Review their progress. So for that, High Level Political Forum was created, and obviously the Niti Aayog's report will go to that High Level Political Forum for the monitoring. There are 17 sustainable goals. Anyway, you should also know that High Level Political Forum origin. You had Rio Earth Summit, and after 20 years you had Rio plus 20 in the same place, Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. In 2012, the report was named as The Future We Want. After that, we have come up with HLPF for the monitoring purposes under the United Nations High Level Political Forum. It is outcome document of United Nations Conference on Sustainable Development Rio plus 20. This HLPF meets annually, but it is dependent on you that how many voluntary submissions you want to do. India has done twice. This was the second one. In July, for 8 days, the meeting is conducted, and the meeting of HLPF is conducted under the core organization of UN, that is ECOSOC, Economic and Social Council. So what was the title of our report, VNR report? It was titled Decade of Action, Taking SDGs from Global to Local. What is that? Sustainable development goals were decided globally by the United Nations. Now Niti Aayog with MOSPI ministry will coordinate it at the national level. Now various states will implement it at a state level, and in some of the states even districts are implementing it at the grassroots level, local level. These are the steps in sustainable development goal localization by India, state and union territories and national level. You do not need to look upon all of them, but just have an idea. Okay, fine. The review are voluntary. So the review India submitted was voluntary and a state led. That means India led, not your different states. And it is aimed at facilitating the sharing of experiences. So various countries will share their experience, that's how much they are doing and how they are doing. Every country will learn from each other, their successes, their challenges, their failures. The lessons will be learned. The process, like you learn from your life lessons. This process of preparation of a country's VNR provides a platform for partnership also. You will do some partnership. Okay, Bangladesh, you are doing good. Let's teach us how you are achieving SDGs. Then various stakeholders will be coming there. Niti Aayog prepared and presented India's first VNR in 2017. I already explained you. So now let us discuss what are India's second voluntary national review. In that, how India is doing the localization. If India has titled its report as taking SDG from global to local level, then how India is doing the localization. First of all, let us see how India approaches localizing SDGs At the national level, you have Niti Aayog. Niti Aayog, in collaboration with MOSPI Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, is responsible for overall coordination and monitoring of the SDGs in the country. So it will monitor how much progress we are making towards SDG. Niti Aayog and MOSPI together. Then it will also have Niti Aayog has SDG India Index and Dashboard. Niti Aayog measures the progress, ranks the performance of states and union territories about Sustainable Development Goal progress by SDG India Index and Dashboard. Then you have National Indicator Framework. Here we have 297 indicators on all 17 goals. This is also developed by Niti Aayog. Then at the central level, you have Parliament also. Parliament exercises legislative oversight. How? In Parliament, you have Public Account Committee. It is not mentioned here. Please add that into the notes. Public Account Committee will do the oversight on the progress of Sustainable Development Goal agenda, and for that they will do the periodic review of Niti Aayog and related ministries. So Parliament's Public Account Committee. What about states and union territory level? You have nodal departments for implementation of SDGs selected by the state government. Then various states have done a state indicator framework developed by various states. Almost 60% of the states of India have developed their own state indicator framework towards Sustainable Development Goal monitoring. Now several states have established even district level structures, so that will take the SDG implementation at the grassroots level. Monitoring will also happen. At the state level, I told you that a state indicator framework is developed by 60% of the state. If you talk about the districts, even 30% of the districts also have district indicator framework. 30% of states also have this district indicator framework for monitoring and assessment of SDGs development at the district level. 30% of the states have developed for the district level monitoring also. Otherwise, for the state level monitoring, 60% of the states have this state indicator framework. So this is all about India's second voluntary national review for Sustainable Development Goal, submitted by Niti Aayog in United Nations High Level Political Forum, created through Rio Plus 20 Summit. Now again, this topic is very important: cooling emissions and policy synthesis report. This cooling emissions, what is that? Your emissions should be reduced so that the global warming will reduce. That is your cooling of the environment. Cooling, that is what we are trying to achieve through Paris climate deal, right? We are trying to reduce the global temperature, so we need to cool our emission. That is, emissions should be in a way that they will lead to global temperature down. So cooling emissions and policy synthesis report. So it will also talk about the policies. What are the policies you can do for cooling of the world? Cooling emissions and policy synthesis report is released by two organizations together. One is United Nations Environment Program. You have all detail about the UNEP, and the second is International Energy Agency. You should have a brief introduction about International Energy Agency. International Energy Agency, it is a Paris-based autonomous intergovernmental organization. You should remember that this is intergovernmental organization. Initially, it was established in the framework of Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, in 1974. See, India is an associated member of International Energy Agency. Overall, 30 member countries are there, and also you should know that this is not a part of United Nations. So what they are doing in this report? Assessment of climate and developmental benefits of efficient and climate friendly cooling. So if you do cooling efficient and climate friendly, then what will be the impact on climate that will be assessed, and what will be the developmental benefit that will be assessed. You know Kigali Amendment. So the report says that by Kigali Amendment to the Montreal Protocol. Remember that Kigali Amendment was done to the Montreal Protocol. This was not done to the Kyoto Protocol. You have to remember that. Kigali Amendment was done to the Montreal Protocol on substances that destroy the ozone layer. Montreal Protocol will phase out the production and use of hydrofluorocarbons. This Montreal Protocol is related to substances that destroy ozone layer, right? But Kigali Amendment was done in a way for the cooling of the atmosphere. Why? When Montreal Protocol was done, previous refrigerants which caused ozone layer destruction were to be replaced by some other components, some other chemicals. One of that chemicals was hydrofluorocarbons, HFC. The problem was that when we started using HFCs, they were not destroying the ozone, but they caused global warming. They were greenhouse gases. So again the problem started. So various countries united and they said that why not do an amendment to the Montreal Protocol only, because this substance has come from the Montreal Protocol. So let's not talk about the Kyoto Protocol and Paris Agreement. Let's do some amendment in Montreal Protocol only, even when this HFC is not causing ozone layer depletion. The origin of this chemical compound is Montreal Protocol somehow. So we will eliminate in a phase wise manner. There is three phases. India also has one phase out of that. So we need to eliminate our HFCs uses from what? Cooling system, right? This was used in compressor and cooling system. So the report says that if you go on the action about Kigali Amendment to the Montreal Protocol properly, if you implement the phase down, then you can avoid 0.4 degrees Celsius rise of global warming by 2100. See, these HFCs are so important that if you eliminate them gradually, this will lead to 0.4 degrees Celsius cooling, you can say, of atmosphere by 2100, by the end of this century. The Paris Climate Deal also talks about 2100 only, the targets. Report also says that if you go with energy efficiency improvements and transition away from super polluting refrigerants and avoid greenhouse gas emission, then we can avoid greenhouse gas emission up to 210 to 460 gigatons of carbon dioxide equivalent over the next 4 decades. So overall, it just talks about you have to employ you have to do away with super polluting refrigerants, and that will lead to global cooling. However, increasing demand of cooling is contributing significantly to climate change, and this is the result of emission of these HFCs here. Otherwise, CO2 and black carbon also is causing global warming, because you are burning fossil fuel based energy for this air conditioners and everything, right? The electricity is coming from where? The electricity is coming from fossil fuel based coal plant only, the main thing. So these are the problems. People are doing using AC so much. But more important than that is India Cooling Action Plan. Has India done something for cooling? Yes. India became one of the first countries in the world to launch a comprehensive all India cooling action plan, and it was done in March 2019 only. It has a very long-term vision to address the cooling requirements across various sectors. In residential, commercial, office building, cold chain also requires refrigeration. So we have to somehow use those chemicals or those methods or those equipments which will not do too much global warming, that will lead to cooling of the atmosphere. So that is India Cooling Action Plan. Refrigeration also, AC and everything. So how long is the duration of our India Cooling Action Plan, which is in short called as ICAP? It provides a 20-year perspective. At the same time, it provides you recommendations across various sectors like air conditioning, building, refrigeration. The 20-year perspective starts from 2017-18 financial year only and goes towards 2037-38. So 2017 to 2038 is the 20-year perspective of your India Cooling Action Plan. So the plan says that do some of the things. 5 things are in focus. One is reduce cooling demand across sectors by 20 to 25% by 37-38. 20 years. That means in 20 years you have to first reduce the cooling demand across various sectors by 20 to 25%. Second, then you have refrigerant demand. You have to reduce the refrigerant demand by 25 to 30%. Then reduce cooling energy requirements by 25% to 40%. Cooling energy is directly not causing. Cooling energy, the electricity, directly not causing your global warming. But electricity is coming from where? Thermal power plants. Thermal power plants are burning fossil fuel. So that is also causing global warming. So you have to reduce cooling energy requirement also. You have to reduce refrigerant demand also. You have to reduce the cooling demand also. 4. Recognize cooling and related areas as a thrust areas of research. Do some research. Come up with a new gas. Come up with efficient equipment under National Science and Technology Program. And 5th is training and certification of 1 lakh servicing sector technician by 2022 to 23. and that training should be synergized with your Skill India mission. If you do these steps, that will lead to cooling. That is India action cooling action plan. You can see some vagueness is there, okay, some vagueness, but anyway, India was one of the first countries in the world to launch a comprehensive cooling action plan, so that should be appreciated. In this lecture, only this much. We have wind up our reports, indices, and everything. In the next lecture, we can either go to economy section, otherwise we can go to government schemes which came in your June and July. And if we go about government schemes June and July, so we can take some other topics also. If any topic is remaining in science and technology and environment, that will be done in the miscellaneous section. So I think by 19th or 18th or 20th, something like that, we will be winding up with our June, July, August also. In the last 2 to 3 days, I will be doing the 10 to 15 days of August month current affairs. But before that, we have to wind up everything about June and July. So that's all in this lecture. Thank you.